Sorry for the delay, everyone. Technical issues. It is December 9th, 2021, and we are called to order the Board of Trustees of the Las Vegas Clark County Library District meeting for December 9th. Roll call, if you would, please, Ebony.
Chair Wilson,
Here.
Vice Chair Benavidez,
Here.
Trustee Foyt,
Here.
Trustee Wah, Trustee Haran,
Here.
Trustee Melendrez, Trustee Ortiz,
Here.
Trustee Raymaker,
Here.
Trustee Rogers,
Here.
and Trustee Whiteley.
Here.
Okay. And for the record, Trustee Melendrez is an excused absence. And if we could, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there any public comment at this time, Ebony?
We do have one public comment from Shayna Harrington. If you're here, please come up to the mic. Your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Shanna Harrington. I live at 10083 Sunset Palisades Way, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89183.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I am your youth services manager. I work for the Las Vegas Clark County Library District. I just wanted to say a few wonderful things about our new executive director. Every year I organize a youth services summit for our youth services staff. It's about 90 staff that attend. And every year I invite our director to come and speak to our wonderful staff, our youth services staff. And this year was the first time our director actually accepted. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to our director. It was wonderful to have him there. The staff really appreciated it. We talk about all kinds of things, best practices, STEAM, team behavior, engagement, but having the director there, one staff member even said, all the speakers were great, especially the director. And that was just really, really heartwarming. And to hear him say to the youth services staff directly that our program numbers are up after pre-pandemic levels, it's just spectacular. And it really encourages our staff. And so to have a director, have him there, show up, make time for staff, it just makes a huge difference. So I just wanted to give kudos, and we just thank you very much. If I had a Shanna coin, I would give one out. So thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Yes, how do we get more of those? Can we solicit that kind of public comment? Was that allowed? Was that all our public comment, Ebony?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, then let's move on to item 3. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. And on to item 4, the approval of the minutes from the November meeting and the Finance and Audit Committee as well. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, corrections on the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
All in favor?
Second.
Great. Okay, on to Chair's report. I'm just going to jump in very quickly and address something that came up in the last meeting just to make sure we clarify it. There was discussion about why all the trustees weren't specifically invited to participate in the subcommittee meeting. And I just wanted to, for the trustees who weren't at that meeting, that was my choice. The director asked me if they should invite everybody to participate, and I instructed them to just send invites out to the members of the committee only. For clarification, that's a personal thing of mine that from my time in the legislature as I'm working there, I'd never seen a full assembly invited into the Judiciary Committee meeting or any other subcommittee. But I would like to say for the record that if you want to be a part of any of the subcommittees, please email me. I'm happy to add you as a member. So if anybody wants direct participation and be in the subcommittee, let me know. Happy to add you as members to it. Aside from that, everything that goes on in a subcommittee meeting is discussion and recommendation to be brought to the board, where us as a full board will sit, discuss, and then vote on the item. If everybody shows up for the subcommittee and we have 10 people at every subcommittee to have the discussion, it really makes the point of a subcommittee meaningless. And we can just go straight to the board with those items. So I just wanted that transparency. We're not trying to do anything behind the scenes or not invite other trustees. We're trying to be efficient with everybody's time and not have the same discussion at 2 meetings in a row with the full board. That being said, again, I'll say it again, anybody who wants to be added to any of the subcommittees, shoot me an email, we'll make it happen. Moving on to item 6, library reports. Director Watson.
Thank you, Chair Wilson. To the board, Kelvin Watson, Executive Director for the record. So you got my report. I'm not going to go over the report in detail, but I'll answer any questions that you have. I just wanted to make a couple of comments that aren't in the report, and they'll be further shared with you at the next board meeting. But I wanted to provide a strategic Playbook 2026 update. This week, we held our halftime with the staff, where we actually looked at where we are. The directors presented, I presented. We also had videos available as well. And so the staff participated both in person and online. I also want to give kudos to our trustee, Dr. Rogers, for participating in the halftime as well. The staff commented, and we did get staff comments about his participation, and thanking him for adding his some words to the staff and talking about organizational change and the strategic playbook, and just how he as a trustee himself was felt about the process. And I'm sure he can add some more comments as well, but I wanted to say thank you to Dr. Rogers. We're going to be providing updates in our next month's reports, as well as sharing the video. So we'll email the videos separately that were shared as well. I also wanted to give a shout out to our very own Community Engagement Director, Matt McNally, who has been selected to receive the 2021 Western Arts Alliance Award. He'll be receiving that award. They're going to do it online January 6, 2022. And this is in recognition of his contributions to the field, and particularly his leadership in navigating the pandemic. So I wanted to just give that congratulations to Matt here publicly in this meeting, and recognizing that. Chair, at this point, I have no other comments, but we'll entertain any questions regarding my executive director's report.
Okay, to the rest of the board, do you have any reports that you would like to discuss? Any items you want to call attention to? Any questions on any of the other reports?
Not so much the reports, but I will say that I did attend the book sale at Sahara West, and then again today here at Windmill, and very well prepared, very organized, and I know they did well. I understand the financial side of things is very good. So just a shout out to them, that I thought it was lovely, and I liked the literature announcing the event as well. Thank you.
A couple more seconds to see if the trustees online had anything.
And if you don't mind, Chair.
Absolutely, Trustee Rogers.
Just want to echo what Executive Director Watson said. I really enjoyed listening to some of the reports where I was able to attend, and I appreciated hearing the updates, and to make sure that everything completely aligns with sort of what we heard when we did our strategic plan last June, I believe it was, that there is significant progress being made toward those the Playbook 2026, and that we are certainly on target to meet and exceed those ambitions that were laid forth before the board back at that meeting. So, and just appreciate all the hard work that the staff is doing, and certainly Director Watson as well, his leadership.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Trustee Ortiz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I guess, Mr. Leo Segura. Have a question for him.
Leo Segura, Library Operations Director for the record.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'll be brief. I'm looking at the security report. I know Mr. Vino is involved with it, but is there any, it seems to me like we're doing a lot of homeless services. People feel more comfortable with us. We're doing a better job. We're open more hours, whatever the case may be. I'm wondering if there's any way to monetize that and ask the county, because somebody's getting paid to provide those services, and we're not. And so how do we do that? So the question for you to think about, I don't need an answer, is maybe suggest that one of these classes at UNLV do surveys and do a report to see what is it that's attracting the population. If you look at the hours, there's a very good listing of what time the incidents occur as far as with the homeless population. They may or may not want to be interviewed, but at least we should try to find discern a little bit better what the issues are so that we can address them either through our own programming or through asking for help from the county's homeless initiative. So the request is to see if you can, not us, because we don't have enough time, but maybe one of the UNLV classes to select us as a pet project, if I can use that term, so that they can do a survey on homelessness and homelessness needs around specifically the Clark County Library. It'd be the easiest task, and they can put it together, develop the questions very quickly, ask, and then give us a small report. They get credit, they benefit, they have to do something. Could be through the social work department, could be through the criminal justice department, the psychology department. And that way we get a better understanding of what the problem is and how we address it. Is that okay with you, Director?
Yes, it is, Chair Ortiz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
While you're here, I just wanted to thank you for the abundance of information that you put into the report. I know last month the homeless situation came up, and I think you did a terrific job laying out all the different ways that your staff is handling it, but also that you're working with other agencies. So I just really appreciate the wraparound approach that you're using for that and the detail that you reported back to us with it this month. So thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, while we're on the subject of Clark County Library and homelessness, I do want to recognize the branch manager of Clark County Library reached out to my boss at the Homeless Alliance to get, to have a conversation about addressing homelessness at the Clark County Library. So I'm looking forward to them having that conversation. I'm not going to be there. I told my boss, I said, I'm sure the last thing that Director Watson wants is me sitting in a room with management by myself, but Katrina is going to do it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what those conversations yield.
Yeah, we have several meetings set up with Homeless Alliance as well as Metro, and Robin's been setting those up at my bequest. So, yeah. Right.
Trustee Ortiz, is that?
That's it. Thank
That's
you.
it?
Great. Thank
Doing
you.
a good job. Thank you.
Are there any other reports any trustees would like to pull forward?
I just would love to thank the community engagement team for creating the great programming. If we haven't had a chance to see any of the recent programming, the music programming has been exceptional. The take and make craft kits are drivers to visit, for children to visit the library. I'm just so impressed with the continued scope of programming. So just wanted to acknowledge everything that we're offering to the community right now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question though. I wanted to ask some question on the West Las Vegas Library. I see it's in the reports under general services. So is it better for me to ask there, or is it better to ask when the architects come forward?
Director?
You can ask now, Chair.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Ortiz.
Mr. Vino, I had a couple questions for you.
Good evening, everyone. John Vino, General Services Director for the record.
Thank you very much. This will be brief.
No problem.
As far as timelines, I'm looking at your report. Can you give us a little bit more defined timelines as far as we have an agenda item for the architects, the property, the design, things like that?
Programming is on schedule. We have meetings about every 2 weeks. We're working on the enumerated portion coming up with the services part of what the library is. We're going to be moving into the next phase. We've been trying to get together some community engagement meetings. We're just working against some scheduling issues with the participants. But we expect to be fully into that portion of the programming in January. Looks like that'll be a little easier for not necessarily us, but for the community leaders that we're trying to set up those meetings with. I did hear from the city. We're moving forward on the contracts, at least on the ground lease. Things look good there. Things are moving forward, I think, at a pace. You know, the programming, we committed to 4 to 5 months, and you know, we're about a month and a half in, and I think we're probably ahead of schedule for that program. So we'll probably have some additional presentations as we get into the early part of 2022 for the board on a pretty regular basis as we get deeper into the programming.
So a couple questions. The one everybody wants to know, when's the first shovel going to go in? I know it's hard to predict, but do you have a concept of when you'd like to have it?
It really depends. You know, we have a lot to accomplish before then. Obviously, tonight, with the board's approval, starts the architectural services part of that. You know, the first part of the schematic program and conceptual drawings and those presentations to the board. I think realistically, we're talking, you know, 9 months to a year to develop the full set of architectural drawings. We have to discuss and finalize the delivery method we've talked about for the construction side. We are leaning to CMAR, so that's going to have to be bid and brought before the board for approval. You know, I think most of 2022 is going to be involved in really identifying and finalizing what this new West Side Library is going to look like and what it is, and get it finalized. And 2023, potentially sometime in 2023, you know, it's hopefully at that time we'll know exactly when we're going to break ground.
Okay, a couple last questions. As a matter of public record, the city is asking for money from the American Recovery Act to buy the West Las Vegas Library, and then to give us the money because we own it.
Correct.
Right? Except for the ground. Have you had conversations or with the committee is going to make that decision? I know it's not really us asking for the money, but ultimately we get the money.
No, we have not. They haven't invited us to be a part of that discussion.
Okay, so Director, I mean, that's a public hearing. I'm not sure that we need an invitation.
May I speak?
Yeah.
So we didn't even recognize, or we didn't even get notice that it would be on a meeting. So we just got a letter saying that happened. So we weren't even notified to attend the public meeting. So if we are notified to attend, we certainly will attend and participate. And I'll just add, since we're discussing this, we still haven't completed or received the interlocal agreement. So my thinking is we're talking about shoveling the ground, and we haven't gotten there yet. So that's my concern, is that we get the agreement done with the city, the interlocal. We're moving forward with the architects, but I think we're moving somewhat a little faster than we may need to at this point. That's what I wanted to share with the board.
And Trustee Ortiz, do we have some reason to doubt the city's, I don't know, intentions here? Or is there a concern about them actually applying for this and following through on what they said? That
As a matter of public record, the city is now in litigation to pay out $32 million to a golf course for an inverse action that occurred. And so they theoretically don't have enough money right now. They may have it in the next calendar year. And so that's why.
enough money for the golf course or for us?
To buy the library. So
Right.
that's why they went to the American Recovery Act money. And that committee is the Enterprise Committee. It's been around. And so we got approved to go forward now, it goes to, I don't want to misquote, Assemblyman Chris Brooks. Is he Assemblyman or Senator? Assemblyman? He's the chair. He's going to ultimately make the decision who gets that bulk of money, whatever that is, 100, 200 million. And we're in there for 3.5. I mean, the city's in there for 3.5 to give it to us. So no, we don't have any doubt that the city's not going to buy it. It's just, will it occur sooner or later?
And what, is there some exposure to us? I guess I'm trying to understand what the concern is.
We need
So
the
is there
money to
something
build
do
the
we need to be
library.
addressing here that's,
We need the money to build the library.
There is a concern that, and I think you're mentioning it. Originally, the city wanted to do one agreement. We had offered to do two separate agreements, one for the sale and one for the ground lease of the new property. They didn't want to proceed. They wanted one agreement. They've recently come back to us and say they'd like to do two separate agreements with us, which isn't necessarily an issue. We just have to make sure we have language in our ground lease that allows us to cancel the ground lease if the city doesn't.
okay,
It's
so,
that back part of it. And we'll just make sure with our attorneys that we have the proper language within, if we move forward with an interlocal for the new real estate, that the district is protected if for whatever reasons we can't move forward on part two of that.
okay, so just to clarify that I'm understanding it correctly, then we previously didn't really have any exposure because the ground lease was contingent upon them buying the old building.
It was
Now
going to
it's-
be one agreement, correct?
Right, now it's going to be split up. We have an exposure unless we cover that in the agreement. And as long as we're careful about covering that ground lease agreement exposure, we should be fine. Right,
That's
Okay.
my position as well.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I had
Trustee
one-
Ortiz?
One more thing, thanks for the clarity on that, Mr. Chairman. Real briefly, what size are we looking at as far as the size of building on that footprint, assuming everything happens correctly?
And that's why we do our programming. There's a lot of factors that will come into that. I mean, the programming we go through, that's when we decide the services. We're meeting, we're doing our due diligence with our staff. We're enumerating, how many classrooms we need, how many study rooms we need, how many, what a story timer is, how many tech centers, right? So that's going to tell us. And there's other factors as well, the square footage of the acreage that we're getting, how many, parking lot spots we'll need. So all of these factors come into the program, which we hope to have, I think, I think we're ahead of schedule on it. So in the next couple of weeks, months, I'm sorry, we should have that finalized and we'll have a really good idea of what the building going forward is, but that's subject to change. I mean, everything you'll see in the documents I'm presenting to you is based on a 35,000 square foot building, but that's just, to be honest, that's based on our generic library program for a building in this type of circumstance with that square footage, that acreage. Plus it's really double the size. We know at minimum, we more or less want double the size of our current library. So again, it's just a placeholder. 35,000 doesn't mean that's what that library could be. It's going to be whatever the enumerated program and the board approves it to be at the time. And even that will be subject to negotiation as we figure out, of course, budgeting that's the big impact of, East Vegas changed many times. I mean, it was until we wound up at the final square footage, most of that based on the rise in construction costs as we went forward with that project.
So the reason I raised that, and just the last comment is, I will be asking the board for no less than 40,000 square feet. Because once we finish this, we're not coming back to this library for another 25 years. That's a fact. You look at everything else. And so we need to build capacity for the future. And the reason I think that's important today is because if we do on a 35,000 square foot library, no offense to our architects, we got to go back and pay them to redo it to do a 40,000 square foot drawing. So I don't want to pay twice for that service. And again, the staff may not know, they may not know what they need in the future, and then politically, I know for a fact, people will get offended if we build a smaller library than the East Las Vegas Library. So I will be coming to this board. This is not an agenda item, asking for 40,000 square feet. It meets our goals, meets our community engagement, our future planning. And just to say one more time, once we leave there with that new library, we're not coming back for another 25 years. And so that's what happened with the library we have. They underbuilt it. At the time, they didn't consider how the future. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mill.
Of course.
I think you're doing a fine job putting the building blocks in place.
Thank you.
It's
It's a process, right?
It is, absolutely. Absolutely. And I did attend the meeting that you held at East Las Vegas as the kickoff. Going forth, I'll be very happy to see the level of community engagement as well. Thank you.
You all will be invited, obviously, as we start the community engagement portion of the interviews.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
okay, thank you. Any other report questions, comments? Hearing none, I will accept the reports and move on to item 7, unfinished business. We have none at this time, so we will move on to new business. Item 8B1, discussion and possible board action regarding a contract award to KME Architects to provide architectural services and design a new West Las Vegas library.
And Mr. Chair, as they're coming up, I just have to make a disclosure. In addition to this board, I sit on the Nevada State Board of Architecture, Interior Design, and Residential Design, which is of course the professional licensing board for those professions. So I'm involved in the licensing and discipline of architects, interior designers, and residential designers. Service on the board will not prevent me from making independent, objective opinion and does not make me unduly influenced on this item, but I'm just putting that disclosure on the record.
Well, thank you for that disclosure. It sounds like it was very well written by legal. And do you have a presentation for us?
Not a presentation, I'll read the agenda and just a discussion. I will introduce Mel Green and Emmanuel Agredes, principals with KME. We're here to answer any questions that you might have, and I'll read a little bit of the background for the record. KME Architecture is a full-service architectural firm and was selected by the board as the architect of record for the West Las Vegas Library as part of the master plan selection process. KME is a certified emerging small business, a disadvantaged business enterprise, as well as a minority business enterprise. KME has extensive knowledge and experience in the West Las Vegas community. They provide design and architectural services for the renovation of the historic West Side and High School, and was awarded the Mayor's Urban Design Award for Historic Preservation and Adaptive Reuse. Additionally, West Las Vegas architectural projects include the Rainbow Dreams Academy, Kermit R. Booker Elementary School, as well as Wendell P. Williams Elementary School. KME Architect is a diverse firm with extensive experience in a wide scope of projects and this type that vary in size, budget, and complexity. Their portfolio includes projects in private and public sectors, which consists of educational, hospitality, government, historic, and commercial. Services they provide include architecture, interior design, landscape design, sustainability design, tenant improvements, and master planning. KME Architects' mission is to respond to the needs of the client by providing eco-friendly and aesthetically pleasing designs that are tailored to fit the requirements of their project. The contract scope of work includes providing basic architectural services, including schematic design, design development, construction documents, bidding construction, contract administration, project closeout for an approximately 35,000 square foot library on approximate 5-acre site. Additional services include interior design, selection of the specifications for bidding of furniture and shelving, LEED design, as well as site signage. The scope is modeled after and consistent with the East Las Vegas Library Architectural Services contract. The full scope of services is attached to the agenda item. We are asking for a motion to authorize staff to award a contract to provide architectural services for design of a new West Las Vegas library to KME Architects in the amount of $2,153,250 plus authorized reimbursable expenses subject to final review by council. I'm just going to give a few minutes to Mel or to Emmanuel to speak, to just tell us how excited they are to work with us.
Oh, absolutely. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Melvin Green with KME Architects, one of the principals, 8367 West Flamingo Avenue, Road, Suite 100. And I have with me my partner, Emmanuel.
Hi, good evening. My name is Emmanuel Arguelles, Principal at KME Architects, and we're just really pleased to have an opportunity here to work with you, the board members here in this new library. And we've been starting on some of the programming elements with John, and we're just very excited about the opportunities within this community. As John has read off on some of our background description, we're really integrated into the community as well, focused on this part of the West Side, and we've done quite a few projects and worked with a lot of community members and residents of the community. And so it's something that's really close to our hearts and we really are excited about. And I'd like to just make a point, board member Ortiz, your comments about the 40,000 square foot building actually are something that are music to our ears, because we
Right.
never come to these meetings with an anticipation of being able to build more. It's always a way of trying to kind of scope down. And so we're really excited about your guys' enthusiasm about this project, and we just can't wait to get started on it.
Yeah, we're really excited because we believe in listening to architecture. We want to listen to the need of the community. I've been involved in that community for a very long time. A lot of pro bono work that my partners sometimes were saying, well, hey, but it's a need for it. Our goal is to serve the underserved, the underrepresented people in that community. I work in that community. I eat in that community. I've walked the streets in that community when we did Wendell P. Williams Elementary School on 110-degree weather, going door to door to let everybody know what we wanted to do. So our goal is to be a role model for the people in that community, to provide a iconic building that everyone want to come see culturally as well as educationally. Thank you.
I have a few questions I want to jump to right to, and to Trustee Ortiz's point. So far, we've been talking about this library and getting it built, and we're all excited to do it. But it's been kind of a fictitious pie in the sky thing at, moving forward. Now we're about to spend real money. So now the discussion gets serious. I'd like a little more clarification for myself is to Trustee Ortiz's question. He doesn't want to pay to design it twice. I agree. I'm not real fond of wasting money and I know to Mr. Vino's comment that this is a placeholder number. So how far are we away? Number one, question one, how far away are we from having a real number of what the need is? Number one. I'm going to follow that question up with a comment of, for myself, I can't speak for the rest of the board. I'm not real concerned about what East Las Vegas square footage is. My concern is what do we need to deliver the residents in West Las Vegas to meet their needs? If it's half the size of East Las Vegas and that's what meets their needs, that's in the best interest of the taxpayer. If it needs to be twice the size of East Las Vegas, I'm not really worried about upsetting the representatives of East Las Vegas either. I'm worried about the best interest of the taxpayer and the people in that community. So that being said, going back to the question, how far are we away from knowing what the actual needs of that community are before we commit to money, and how much does this money fluctuate based on how far the actual needs fluctuate from that 35,000 placeholder?
We're pretty close to dialing in the services portion, and then it'll be sent out to all the department heads that are affected by the square footage to get their input on what we've allocated and to make sure is 2 classrooms, is the study room. So we have to work with library operations, community engagement, and everybody associated with their portion of the library. But I would say we're going to be pretty dialed in, probably within 30 days, mid-January, we'll have a pretty good idea as to what the services, and that could change as we decide. There's questions. For instance, we want a business incubator as part of this. That has been thrown out there. What does that service mean? So we need to work through that. How do we program a business incubator into this, and what does it mean for the library in terms of our programming? That takes a little bit of time. This thought, we're looking at we really want this to be an innovative, state-of-the-art library. So some of the stuff will just be placeholders. We know we want an additional tech center that stands out from what we've done. So, we build into our program a 700 square foot flexible space that we need to figure out exactly what that is going to be for this community. So there are different ways. We could have that square footage, which was the enumerated program, and we may build in the difference into expandable space, like we did here at Windmill. We don't necessarily have to build it out. We don't need to do that expense at this point. Again, so budget will come in. What can we afford to do with the other, projects, versus, assuming that our budget continues to grow and is still healthy. If it comes out to 36, maybe we take 4,000, we build a 40,000 with a 4,000 future expansion that is available. We did it at Centennial Hills. We did it here at Windmill. So it's not, we can look at that and see if cost-wise, we can build that in and yet still stay within our overall budget.
I mean, thank you.
In addition, we've already started the process parallel with coming up with interpretive images of what the building would look like. Site analysis is already underway. We've actually walked the site. The Legacy Park dedication was last week. So we're looking at how we can integrate the Legacy Park portion into our site. Traffic, parking calculations, we've already started working on those as well.
I guess what I'm struggling with for me at this moment is I'm fighting I want to move really, really fast and get it done, but I'm also looking at we're about to spend $2 million and we don't even have rights to the land at this point, and we don't have the programming to tell us how big the building is we're going to build at this point. And there's nothing in this language that gives us a plus or minus kind of curve. And maybe this is better for KME to answer, but in this spend here, I worry of scope creep, right? If we find the programming needs 45,000, how much scope creep does that add to this bill that we're about to vote on right now?
So I can speak to that a little bit. So, and I understand the concerns of the board as well on that, and something on that nature as well. So just to reiterate a little bit about what Mel was talking about. So the first parts of what we need to do is really just kind of go through and develop what the services are going to be, and then determine hard scope what that number and square footage is required for that building. By no means do we want to provide more building than we need to. We want to be cost conscious and efficient and effective with the design that we use. Based on our historical data on some of the past projects that have been done with the library, we're again using this 35,000 square foot as a placeholder, knowing that there's going to be some fluctuation in that, right? We don't know what the design is going to be as of yet. But I think we're at a point now where we're close enough in our programming that we're finding that we are coming within, a 35,000, 36,000 square foot building, and we're still in the infancy of the program. And as we start delivering that program to the members of the board to review and members of the library to comment on their services in the space that's required for them, I think we'll be pretty dialed in that. We feel pretty confident within that square footage. We would love to make spaces bigger as well. But again, it's something that we want to be conscious about and not just make spaces bigger to be bigger. We want to be able to make spaces that are going to function for the community and be efficient with the budget as well. So there is a portion of the program that is, of course, placeholders and items that we've used historical data to calculate, but we feel pretty confident in our ability to take that program and then translate it to an effective design for a building, and not, if we're talking about something that's 35,000 square feet, not growing that to a 45, 50,000 square foot building to fit a program that's required.
No, well, and as you said, we're here all excited about delivering what the community needs.
Yes.
So it's not that I don't think anybody's trying to box you into 35,000 square feet.
No.
But what I would like to have an understanding of, if this goes from the placeholder square footage to 42,000, programming determines, okay, this is what this community really needs. And like Trustee Ortiz says, we're going to build this once, and we're not going to look at it for 3 decades. It's not like West Las Vegas can get any bigger. We're not on the edge of town where we keep adding land or something, right? How much is this price going to fluctuate if we end up having to program 42,000 square feet as a percentage? I mean, what's going to come back to the board that we have to just know in the back of our mind, hey, if programming says we need an extra 7,000 square feet, that also comes with an extra X in design cost.
Yeah, and that's something that I think will be minimal or marginal, if even really needed, depending on, I guess, once we get through some of our concept design. So when we present our first concept design and we start presenting that to the board and we're at 36, 37, 38,000 square feet, I mean, we can really easily expand that to a 40,000 square foot building, which doesn't really affect design. It just makes spaces bigger. If it's something that we're coming back in and we've designed a program or a building that fits 35,000 square feet, and we're later down the line adding additions to it, depending on where we are within the scope of a work, that does fluctuate some of the costs. Now, that's why we try to do this process really thoroughly in the beginning, because it's a lot easier to change in concept. Well, number one, in programming, once we understand what that program is, we can easily incorporate that into our design. But once we get into concept and design development, if we're at a 37,000 square foot building, the further along we get in our process, of course, there's more that needs to be changed, so that our hope is that we're able to convey the information in the program very thoroughly in the beginning through the programming, and then through our concept design, which is very loose in concept. So it does have an ability to be massaged and fluctuate. And at that time, then I don't think there's a big marginal increase in costs for that.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
That answered the questions that I had. Trustees, does anybody else? I'm sure somebody's gonna have something.
And I just had a clarifying question within sort of that process. Where does the input from the community political stakeholders, where does that input come into your planning process?
That's part of the programming, that was already approved by the board in October. That all is part of the programming that enumerates, gives us the conceptual of what our vision is of this library. And then it's kind of the recipe that we give to the architects to go ahead and design based on what's in the program.
And Dr. Rogers, we've one of our consultants is some new marketing, and they would help us formulate a plan for the stakeholders meetings once we finalize the program.
And that was my question, is sort of when are we, when we get the input from the stakeholders, where does that come into the plan when you come back to say, okay, here is what we need, 37,000, 36, 42, whatever the number is, so that you will have all those inputs when you come back to say, hey, here's maybe the first rendering or the second rendering. So just trying to see when all those inputs sort of coalesce into one concept.
Yeah, I can respond. So those processes are done early on. So we'll engage the community here at the programming level so that we can understand services that we can convey to them the services that we intend to provide in the library, and then give them an opportunity for their input and then incorporate that into the design. And then once we're able to develop a concept design, then we'll engage the community again to show them how that's been translated to the design. So we try to do that very early on in the scope so that we can make sure that everything's been included and we're not making changes later down the road in the design.
And that's what you were referring to, that we will have all that information in advance as you're doing your design, so that we can make those adjustments and know what we're dealing with as soon as possible, so that we don't incur unnecessary rework costs.
Correct.
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay.
John, has the city said, have they given you an indication when we're going to get the documents? Because the first question the chair asked was, what if we don't get the land? So obviously we'll have something in the contract to cover that, but where are we with them getting back the documents?
I'm in contact with them. They've asked for some documents at this point, mostly on the ground lease. So I know they're working on the interlocal, but I don't have a time frame. I'll try to get that.
Because obviously we need that signed before we can.
Well, we need a resolution.
Yeah.
I'll probably have to talk to you about that. One of the
Okay.
questions we have is it 2 interlocals, 2 resolutions before the board.
Right, so we have that time delay to get that here. Meanwhile, we'll have this contract, although it'll take, we're not going to sign it tomorrow. It's going to take some time to look at it.
It took the city, I think, 4 to 5 months last time for East Vegas.
All right, well, we'll just have to put something in this contract, assuming it's approved, that obviously is subject to our acquisition of the lands. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just the question that I have is, I know that, John, last month you had a kind of a timeline of when these kind of community meetings would take place. And I think that, and I didn't see it this time. Do we have an idea of when you'll be able to have a timeline kind of fleshed out?
We're looking January 6th right now for community leaders. We're just having trouble getting on schedules to get everybody together. We're still meeting on staff. We've had several. We meet about every 2 weeks to 10 days. So, you know, the first part, the services portion, we haven't stopped. It's the second part where we're on schedule still to do it in about 4 months, I think is what we're looking at, which is, I think, reasonable still at this time.
Chair,
Yes.
my question is, you're saying that these community meetings are right around the corner, right? What are we presenting to them if we don't really have anything to show?
Mostly our services. This is the service. We'll have our illuminated program. We also, well,
Yeah.
I'll leave it up to KME who has got the
Yeah, at
the
this time,
questions for.
at this time, the first thing that we'd be presenting to them is the enumerated program, which we're just about complete with and ready to send over to the library for their comments. And once we've received their comments and have had a conversation with library staff, then we'll make that public. And then that's what we planned to present to the first community meeting.
And then my follow-up question is, how far down the road are we going without having these contracts done? My question of, we're planning, we're moving forward, but at how far down the road are we going to go without having these contracts done? And with that said, not only not having the contract for the land, but having this agreement that the city is going to pay us for the building. Like, there's a lot of moving parts. I want to make sure that the puzzle is going to fit together without, us trying to put it together and there's pieces missing. It's really confusing, and it's really worrisome, to tell you the truth.
We understand, and I think, the architectural contract is really just permission for us to start the process and to put our team together. Obviously, we're not committing to $2.1 million within the next month. This is a contract that will be paid out over 2 years as we move forward. This is just to give us permission. First, we need to start the legal negotiations with the architects to put this in place. So we are moving forward with the 3 different, with the programming, with the architect, and with the interlocal agreements all at the same time, which is correct. We typically do the agreement and the programming and then the architect. But just as a matter of course, we are moving through, in parallel, but our commitments are all cancelable, where we're not committing to anything. Everything in an architectural agreement, even at $2.1 million, we need to come to the board on a consistent basis at every level for approval to move from conceptual to schematic to design. So there's quite a bit of control. And this is really just permission for KME to put their team together. I mean, it's not just architectural services. It includes getting their lead team together, getting all their sub. We put everything in here that we needed and what we've learned from East Las Vegas. So you are correct. And we did wait. We waited almost 3 months to bring it forward until we had an agreement from the city, at least in terms of an understanding of the terms going forward. And we had requested the interlocal before we brought this to you, because the next phase and just the legal and getting a contract in place could take 30 to 60 days. It's just trying to keep everything moving in one direction so that we keep on track for this project. I hope that, I don't know if that answers your question, but.
I mean, it answers my question, but it really worries me that, we're kind of running down this road with not having our ducks in order.
Yes, Trustee Ortiz.
Trustee Benavides, when I was a chair, I sat with the city manager and with Councilman Creer. When Brian became the chair, we sat again with the city manager there. He gave us a verbal commitment, not only to the library district, but he also made a verbal commitment to the city councilman of that area that the city was going to buy it. I'm not so sure that they would renege on that verbal commitment. They're just trying to find a way to pay for it. My understanding, we also have an appraisal, I don't want to say it publicly here, what the value of that library is. And I think if for some reason, and I doubt it, this is like a 1% uncertainty that we can try to go out and find other funding to supplement what the city was going to pay for the library, if just in case that happens. But I really doubt that. You have a city manager that committed to a city councilman to buy the library. So I'm not sure that he's not going to change his mind. I think it's going to happen.
I would agree with
I
that
like things
assessment.
on paper. I like it when, you know, there's a reason why there's boards and why there's contracts and there's everything is documented and there's a reason why lawyers have jobs, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Trustee Benavides, I know what I took away from your question and their answer specifically that kind of put me at ease was that this is our authorization for them to move forward, and this is what the whole project would end up costing on this. But if the land falls through, we didn't commit to spend this $2 million that we can't get out of now. We didn't hire our own, and I'm going to say something that I'm going to get a dirty look from someone in the internet. This isn't our JARA that we're stuck with if we don't like. Is that, and if that's the understanding here, I feel much better about it. And I'm
We'll
good.
only owe them, we'll owe them based on the time and effort that they've put in up to that point.
Perfect. That's
And
that for
and
me.
what
I don't know if that
you've
answers your
authorized.
question, Trustee Benavides, but that puts my concerns to rest.
We may not even have their agreement done by your next meeting. I mean, it's entirely, this obviously is a specialty kind of a contract that we'll probably want reviewed by someone else besides me. So, I mean, it's entirely possible this thing won't be finalized by your January meeting. So you'll get updated because it's a lot of money and there's a lot of moving parts to this thing. So it may, if it is, we'll let you know. But again, there's definitely going to be a clause that if we don't tie this land up, we're not going forward. And they, of course, don't have any disagreement with that. So, but we'll follow up with the city. I don't know why it would take them. I mean, we agreed in principle. We went through the terms of it. So even if they're changing the form, we'll have to see what it is that's taking them so long to get us in writing, because that particular agreement, we should be able to get back fairly quick. So, but we do have to bring it in front of you as a resolution. But at least if we have it in hand, it's a matter of your approval, not theirs. So we'll follow up on that.
Trustee Benavides, any other concerns, comments? Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any other trustees? Yes, Trustee Raymaker.
Well, you know, they're saying too that they will have some input on January 6th from the community. And I mean, I'm one, you know, I don't believe in shake hands. I don't believe in, I said I would do this and you said you would do this. And it's a promise when you don't really have a contract. It sounds like it's solid. It sounds like it's good, but I've seen too many things go by way with a handshake and a promise. I don't like the fact that we don't have any of that in place, but I would like to know why we couldn't wait until our January meeting if they're going to have some information from the community that they can add to this and tell us what they have found out. So those are just my concerns about this situation.
Gary, now, I think you just addressed this kind of, that the contract won't even be done with KME and hammered out by January, most likely. So if the meeting comes out of January 6th and the community information we get out of January 6th says, no good, the KME contract's not even signed or finalized at that point. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, we can certainly start working on the contract.
Right. I mean, yeah, start working on it, but you didn't think it would be done by then anyways, by the next meeting, most
It's,
likely.
you know, it's over the holidays and I know.
Just as clarification, the meeting on January 6th is not related to the legal agreements
Right.
related to the
Right.
lease. January 6th is for programming our meeting community leaders to present our plans for the property.
Well, I think what Trustee Raymaker's concern is if January 6th doesn't happen and the people that have committed to January 6th blow it off and kick the can down a road a month, being committed into this at that point when that other can's still getting kicked down the road. We haven't even entered into this final contract at that point yet anyways. So if something blows up on January 6th, do we have a way to address trustee Rainmaker's concern at that point?
Everything at this point is subject to further approval and meeting deadlines and deliverables. So there's nothing, we haven't committed to anything at this point that can't be, stopped if for whatever reason this doesn't go forward.
Does that work for you, trustee Rainmaker?
I understand what they're saying, yes.
Anyone else? Okay, see no other comments.
Mr. Chair, I move to authorize staff to award a contract to provide architectural services for design of a new West Las Vegas library to KME Architects in the amount of $2,154,250, plus authorized reimbursable expenses subject to final review by council.
Felipe Ortiz, second.
Motion by trustee Wah, second by trustee Ortiz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye. Nay.
Okay, we have trustee Raymaker opposed. Everyone else is aye. The motion carries. Next item.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, item 8B2, discussion and possible board action regarding contract award for the HVAC system chiller replacement at the West Charleston Library. Sorry.
Good evening again, trustees. Funds have been allocated in the capital projects funds to replace the HVAC system and chiller at the West Charleston Library. The existing chiller unit is approximately 28 years old and needs replacement due to age and reoccurrent maintenance issues. The most cost-effective approach to replace it versus investing in progression of costly repairs. An invitation to bid was advertised in the Review Journal. It was posted on the district's website, emailed to Minority Chamber of Commerce's, as well as being listed on NGEM, the Nevada Government e-Marketplace. The bid opening was held on December 1st, 2021. A total of 4 bids were received. The bid results are as follows. Mesa Energy Supply, $295,765. Force Industrial Mechanical, $359,500. Ryan Mechanical, $367,000, as well as Monument Construction, $548,354. The lowest responsive and reasonable bidder was Mesa Energy Services. We've included and attached the disclosure of ownership principles for Mesa Energy Systems. We are requesting a motion to authorize staff to award a contract for the HVAC system and chiller replacement at the West Charleston Library in accordance with bid number 22-02 to Mesa Energy Systems for the amount of $295,765, and to authorize staff to award the contract to the next lowest responsive and responsible bidder if Mesa Energy Systems fails to comply with the contract documents and construction specifications or fails to execute the contract. I'll be happy to answer any questions on the bid process or the project.
Are there any questions from any of the trustees?
Mr. Chairman, real quick, Mr. Vino, that's a big swing from the lowest bidder to the highest bidder, and then to the other two, it's like 25% more, 50% less.
As best as I can tell, Monument Construction is a GC.
Okay.
Their overhead and
Okay.
was substantially higher.
And you feel comfortable with the lowest bidder?
Lowest bidder has worked with us. They did a similar project at Clark County, and we just did this similar project, similar equipment at Rainbow less than a year ago, and this is right in line, almost exactly in line with what that project cost us. So I'm very comfortable with this. I did speak to the contractor. They double checked their numbers. They feel very comfortable with their numbers. So
Thank you very
going
much.
forward.
Mr. Chairman, I'm satisfied with the answer.
Any other questions, comments? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to authorize staff to award a contract for the HVAC system chiller replacement at the West Charleston Library in accordance with bid number 22-02 to Mesa Energy Systems for the amount of $295,765, and to authorize staff to award the contract to the next lowest responsive and responsible bidder if Mesa Energy Systems fails to comply with the contract documents and construction specifications or fails to execute the contract.
Motion by trustee Wah, is there a second?
Second by Raymaker.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and on to 8B3. Report of the Bylaws Committee to discuss any recommended changes. Go ahead with the report, trustee Wah, and then I just wanted to make a little clarifying info after that on the process as whole, as how it works.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So the Bylaws Committee met this afternoon. We will be bringing two recommended changes to the board in January. I'll make sure that we get those sent out from working with trustee Watson earlier rather than later to give the board full opportunity to explore those two items. But I also wanted to add, based on feedback that we received, that I received, I guess, we'll be having another bylaws meeting in February. And in order to kind of determine if we need to start at 4:30 or 5, I would ask trustees to take what time you need to go through the bylaws. The last time they were amended was 2008. So I'm sure there's some other things that need to be changed or updated. So I'd ask the board to look at those items here in December and part of January, and let me know of any changes that you have. So that way we know if we should have the meeting at 4:30 or 5, depending on how many we have to discuss. It'll be noticed as a very broad meeting. So that way we can talk about whatever comes up. The two items that will be coming to the board in January, one is putting a cooling off period for trustees for employment or contract services. And the second is to do proxy voting for officer elections, and only officer elections for proxy voting. And also I'll turn it over to Chair Wilson.
Thank you, trustee Wah. We learned a little bit about this. Like trustee Wah said, these haven't been amended in a while. So most of us weren't here the last time they were done. Therefore, our process is a little bit muddy. I forwarded everybody a copy of the current bylaws just so you had them earlier. But I just wanted to read this for clarification. The Bylaws Committee, this is from our current bylaws. The Bylaws Committee shall receive and review, and if necessary, originate proposed amendments to the bylaws. The committee can make recommendations regarding approval or disapproval, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so basically anybody of the board at any time can send the committee, hey, I think there's a problem we need to address with these bylaws. You can send it over to the committee chair, and the committee chair can schedule a meeting to review. But if you go to Article 10 of our bylaws, and this is the really important part, is amendments to the rules can be proposed at any regular meeting, but can't become effective until after a favorable vote of the full board at the next meeting. So what's happening right now is trustee Melendez had sent in a suggested change to the bylaws for proxy voting for officer elections. Trustee Wah sent a suggestion to himself as the chair of the board for a change for the cooling off period. So within the spirit of the bylaws, when trustee Wah asked me, okay, what do I do with these suggestions? I pulled up the bylaws book. I read it. Okay, here's what you do. Schedule a meeting to discuss those two items and review the two items, just like Article 6 of the bylaws says he should be doing. So if there was any confusion as to the process, I just wanted to clarify that out. Is the Bylaws Committee isn't the one who sets the bylaws. It's a working committee to sit and discuss suggestions that any member of the board can send at any time. And separate from that, the board can put something directly to the committee as a bylaw amendment. And I'm sorry, not the committee, the entire board. A member can send something that, hey, this bylaw really needs to be fixed in a hurry, and can be added to the agenda by request. Any two members can add an item to the agenda. You can send it to me, the chair, to add to the agenda. So it's not like all roads go through the Bylaws Committee. The purpose of the Bylaws Committee is to have a small working group to flush out the language of the specific recommendations that were sent to that committee. They're not the purpose of the committee isn't to start a never-ending open discussion of let's review the bylaws. It's to handle incoming suggestions from the trustees who see something that needs to be addressed so that they can go flush it out preemptively before it gets to us, the whole group, to have to deal with. So I hope that clarifies the process. That being said, there's really nothing to do on this item other than accept the report. We're at the stage now where we're now aware of the changes the committee has recommended. We now sit on those and digest them. And when we come back at the next meeting, that will be the time when we actually have it as an action item, discuss it, decide what we as a full board want to do or not do, and vote on it at that time. Does anyone have any questions? There need any further confusion about the process or suggestions?
So do you want comments that when it's introduced and as an agenda item? And Jerry, you can help us out here, or do you want comments now?
There is no discussion now. It's
Okay, so
next meeting.
When it's introduced, okay.
Yep.
Great. Okay, that being said, then that covers that. Thank you for the report, Trustee Wah. And moving on to announcements, very quickly, I already asked this of the trustees that are in person, here in person. For the three of you who are online, does anyone have a scheduling conflict with moving the January meeting to 5 PM? Trustee Rogers, Trustee Raymaker, Trustee Benedictus?
No
I'm sorry,
problem.
tell me again, January what?
Same date, just moving the time to 5 PM.
What is the
No.
date?
January 20th? Is it? Is that the right date?
Right, yeah, January 20th.
Okay, yeah, so. Okay, then, since nobody has any scheduling conflict, then if we could, Director Watson, let's move the January board meeting to 5 PM. So under the announcements here, our next board meeting will actually be held Thursday, January 20th at 5 PM at the Clark County Library on 1401 East Flamingo. And the February and March board meetings will be held as posted, Thursday, February 10th at 6 PM and Wednesday, March 10th at 6 PM. Are there anyone signed up for public comment at this time, Ebony?
No, there isn't.
Okay, seeing no public comment. And
Chair, I'd like to make a comment.
absolutely, Trustee Raymaker.
So just as an announcement, something that's coming up, I don't know how many of you know, but every 2 or 3 weeks, I send out a newsletter as Councilwoman Sandra Raymaker. And I spoke with our executive director, and he agreed with what I plan on doing in January. I am going to highlight the Mesquite Library, and I'm going to highlight Judith Sargent. And I also am going to be talking about the fact that RTC, Silver Rider out here in Mesquite, is working with RTC, with Michael Jackson, to help us get the same library specialties on our buses out here, which we're very excited about. And also our executive director has been working with our Councilman George Galt on our STEAM system, and we're going to have we are working on and should have a site in our mini mall out here that should not be of any cost to the library. So those are things that are coming up, and I just like to let you know that I'm excited about being able to talk about things that are going on out here, because we love our library out here and all the things that are going on, as well as all of what we're doing around the community. So
Thank you for that, Trustee Raymaker. Any other announcements?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to take a moment to express to not only Director Watson, but the entire administrative team and all the staff of the library district. Thank you for an amazing year. Of course, this is only my 9th month, so I guess I want to talk, but thank you for the hard work you guys do each and every day. And as we enter the holiday season, I hope you all can find time to be safe and happy with your family, friends and loved ones. And if any branches are holding holiday parties, please let me know. I enjoy free food and talking to people. So, but with that, I hope all the staff, the library district, have a wonderful holiday season. And thank you for what you do. Kelvin, thank you for putting up with us and me specifically. and for all the work that everyone does.
Thank you for that. And on that note, this meeting is adjourned.